That's like the first time I've gotten through that without crying, but I realized that I really can't sing and cry at the same time. Although many people think so, I am not Patti LuPone. So, it's pretty amazing, really, for me to think that I certainly didn't think as a boy of 12, 11, 12, sitting in Philadelphia on my guitar singing John Denver, that someday I would actually be 62 years old, standing here singing that song, and actually understanding it for the first time, really understanding it. You know, when you really look back and think of what your life has been, it's really amazing. And I will tell you this, as exciting as my life has been, and it has been really exciting, my life really did not begin until that day I heard David Walker speak. Because when he spoke and I heard, my life changed that day in a way that I could never have foreseen the trajectory it would put me on, to here, under this stage. Because when you hear truth, when you really hear truth, everything from the past comes into perspective. The present moment seems so vivid and so clear that there is something for you to do bigger than what you've been doing. And then if you're willing to surrender to that present moment and let life take you, look where you end up. I mean, just look at where we all are. So, I want to start with a quote by Mark Nepo, but first I want to start by putting on my glasses, because I am 62. I will do some treatment work on my eyes soon. So, no, clearly I bought into glasses. Plus, I always wore glasses when I didn't need them because I thought they looked cool. Now I have to wear them, and I still think they look cool. So Mark Nepo, here we go. He says this in The Exquisite Risk. He says, "There are no wrong turns, only unexpected paths. There are no wrong turns, only unexpected paths." So how many of you feel as though you might have taken a wrong turn at some point? Anybody besides Margaret? We all have. Everybody thinks, oh, I should have taken that, I should have done that other thing. How many of you have seen Sliding Doors, the movie Sliding Doors? So it's like, oh my God, what would have happened if I went on this subway instead of this subway? What would have happened? I mean, really, Kevin and I have talked about this. What if we hadn't moved to Los Angeles? If we hadn't moved to Los Angeles, I would not have bumped into my old roommate from 20 years before. We wouldn't have had that fateful dinner where we went to dinner and talked about how Kevin and I were trying to adopt and how these two friends of ours were running to have children too and it wasn't working out for them. And we just had this brainstorm of, well, you know what? You have what I need and I have what you need. We should do this together. And so I get to look out and see this 6'1" beautiful boy sitting out there. Yeah. And a girl somewhere in the building. So you just don't know. You don't know what this one step is going to do for you. But the big mistake we make is to sometimes look back and wonder, what if we had taken the other road? There is absolutely no benefit to that whatsoever, because you didn't, Blanche. You didn't. You took this step, and you know why you took this step? Because there was something that needed to be birthed. For me, it just happened to be these two twins. Two twins, that's redundant. Twins. Right? Something had to be birthed, and it had to be birthed through me. It had to be birthed through Kevin. It had to be birthed through Margot, through Pat. It had to be birthed through us in Whole Foods, where we ran into each other. You know, I don't shop at Whole Foods. I just don't. It's whole paycheck to me. You know, so I don't, at that time now I do, but I didn't used to shop at Whole Foods. So the fact that I was even in Whole Foods that day when I ran into Margot, things happen for a purpose. And as Mark Nepo said, there are no wrong turns, only unexpected paths. So I want you to just take a second and think to yourself, how did you get to where you are right now? What put you in that seat, Kelly Britt? How did you get right where you are right now? All of the things, everything you have ever done brought you to this moment. Everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Karen Mitchell, when she gets up here and she talks in her exquisite way, and that day she got up here and talked about being in a marriage that was brutal, I think everybody in the room had an epiphany. That it doesn't matter what happens to you, you get to look it in the face and say no. And frankly, that moment was important in her life. As painful as it might have been, it brought her to where she is and who she is now. Every single one of us. So we can look back and say, what got me here? What brought me to this place? But what's more important is to say, everything that has ever happened to me brought me to this moment in time, and in this moment, I say yes to life. That's what we get to do. And there are a lot of unexpected paths. I'm going to share one with you later on today about where we're going and how we're doing it. It's an unexpected path for me. It's an unexpected choice, and I think many of you will find it unexpectedly interesting. And yet, it feels right to me, so we're going to take that path. And I don't know where it's going to take me, but it's the next step, and that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to just keep making this like I'm not telling you yet. So the talk title, I know, suspense, drama. So the talk title today is, What Turns You On? Really, Kevin? They all know that they're looking at what turns you on. So, I hope, anyway, still. My God, am I blushing? That's good. I didn't think I could bring a blush to my cheek anymore. I've seen it all and done most of it. So, what turns you on consciously, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Look at the phrase, turns on. There is something in you that in a specific moment turns on, that clicks on. There's something in you that just suddenly expands. You know, in the song, it says, it turns me on to think of growing old. I had a hard time with that line because I don't know that it turns me on to think of growing old, but there is a part of me that every time I get to that moment wells up. And it's not because I think I'm losing my looks. It's never going to happen. What it is that there's a part of me that doesn't want to leave. That's all it is. And yet, what do we learn in Science of Mind? I'm never going to leave. My consciousness will go on and on and on through my son, through my daughter, through their sons and daughters. You know, I did change some of the lyrics. I want to see some grandchildren. Not now, but some grandchildren. I want to be alive long enough. I want to be like Vi. I want to be alive long enough to see generations. Kevin said to Will this morning, someday we'd like to see great-grandchildren. And Will said, I'd have to get going right this second for you to see great-grandchildren. And we went, let's just keep it to grandchildren. Fine with that. So what turns you on? What is it that expands you? Because we need to lean into those things more. Bless you. We need to lean into what excites us. We need to lean into our passion. And like Joselito said, what happens in your life? So many people, when something doesn't go the way you want it to, oh, we're not going to Hawaii. That energy becomes the dominant energy for like the next 3 or 4 days. As opposed to, all right, I'm feeling disappointed. I get that. And feel disappointed, please. This is not a la-la religion where you pretend you don't feel what you feel. Because if you pretend you don't feel what you do feel is going into your subconscious mind and doing the same work as if you were feeling it and knowing it. That's how it works. So when you feel what you feel, just feel it and then talk through it. One of the things I have learned through this CPR, this one, CPR 17, I've gotten so clear on this concept of no matter what's going on in your life, you can know the truth through it. You don't have to stop and treat it and tackle it to the ground and kill it. You don't. You have to feel it. Be aware of it. This has been a very, very emotional few months for me, releasing this building. You know, I told you at the retreat last week when the question came up, what wants me to let go of it? And it was the building. I have felt so much better ever since. I haven't tried to push down my feelings, and I'm sure they're going to keep coming up. But you can know the truth as you're feeling what you're feeling. That's what that is all about. So, what turns you on? nature turns me on. I love getting out in nature. I'm very lucky, not lucky. I am very fortunate that I had the mental equivalent to have the home I have, to have the backyard I have, to have the 300-year-old oak tree in my yard that I have, to have a husband that is lockstep with me in the life that we live, you know, and that I have the mental equivalent to that. And you heard me say I'm lucky. I don't believe in luck. There is no such thing as luck. There's a mental equivalent. Whatever you are equal to in mind, you will have in form. I am clearly equal to great love in my life. I am clearly equal to prosperity in my life. I am clearly equal to creative expression in my life. There's so much that you can look at me and say, he's clearly equal to this because that's what he has. I'm equal to health. Even when cancer showed up, I was equal to health. I wasn't equal to cancer. I get it that it showed up and some part of me was equal to it, but whatever that part was, that was gone as soon as I put my mind on health. That's this teaching. That's what we get to do. So what turns you on? Don't be afraid of what turns you on. Lean into what turns you on. Do what turns you on. First, decide what it is, and then do it with no compromises. Jump into it. Dive into it. There's no time like the present. Don't stick your toe in to see how it might feel. Dive in. Trust me, you'll know how it feels if you dive in. Have you ever dove? Have you ever gone into a pool and you don't know what the temperature is? How many of you walk in slowly and like get everything wet a little bit before you go in? Who are those people? Raise your hand. Okay. I will be honest, very often that's me because I don't like cold. But when I really give myself the opportunity to just plunge, I will just dive in, especially if I don't let myself think about it. I'm like, nope, this is for me to do. Just do it. Dive. That's what Mark Nepo is all about. Now, one of my other favorite books is a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And God, I could have used a bigger font. And he said this, in anything we do, in any endeavor, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. In anything we do, in any endeavor, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. So, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've made a lot of choices, and I tend to make them quickly, and I tend to make them take people's breath away. My husband will attest to this. I will just decide. Karen will attest to this. We can be in the middle of singing a song, and I will go, nope, let's do this one. But she's starting to turn into that person too, so that's good. Yeah. I said what the opening song was going to be, and she wrote me back and went, how about this instead? And then she gave me two, and I went, oh, just pick one. And this was perfect. So, I've made many, many choices in my life, many decisions. So I made one for this talk today, and it's just something I've never done before. I've never done this before, but I'm going to do it today. So William, will you come up here, please? I did tell him this. He's not in shock. Yeah. Well, you didn't. So I asked him yesterday, I said, I'm going to bring you up during my talk, and I would just like you to talk for a moment on surrender. Because I'd like to know what a 17-year-old boy, man, soon-to-be man, thinks about surrender, since that's our theme, so hit it.
Okay. So, as someone who's 17 who isn't a legal adult, it feels a lot like most of my life is surrendering to everything around me, whether that's for what I think is the better or what I don't want to acknowledge is the better. But I have a good example of how that manifested itself in something really brilliant for me lately. So, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, I felt really stagnant in my life choices, in school, in the show I was doing. I just felt like everything was kind of trapped and centralized in this really negative place. And I let myself think that. I went for 2 or 3 weeks letting myself go through this mental process where everything just felt insufficient. And I was lucky enough where at the end of that, I had my lovely girlfriend to say, you know, this isn't really who you are. And I was like, that's a valid point. This isn't who I am. And so I started to think I need to not necessarily, and at first I thought I had to change what was around me. I had to change this little thing in my life. I had to go this place for this weekend to get over it. I had to move these things around and talk to these people more and these people less. Until I ultimately came to the realization, after it was pointed out to me, that it wasn't everything around me, it was what was inside me. And to get to that place, I decided I had to start changing the things inside of me that was letting me think that this place I was insufficient. I had to surrender, as everyone has said on stage, to what I knew would eventually be my greater good. So it manifested in something kind of small for most of you, but something pretty massive for me, and that was I donated blood this week. Last time, I had to get a blood test, and mind you, it was a test. They didn't take a pint of blood. Before this, I screamed for 30 minutes. I got the needle in my arm, I looked, I threw up on the technician, and I passed out cold.
So we would sit out in the waiting room. Here's what we would go. We'd wait, and we'd hear scream. Okay? The puke is coming, and then we'd wait. And then it was like, ugh! And then we just waited for the thud. Boom. So Nora and I would go 1, 2, 3. And we always joked about that, but we won't anymore.
So this week, we had a blood drive at my school, and I decided it's time for me to prove to myself that no matter how bad I think things are inside, I can always say, I have the mental equivalent more than that, I have the capability to overcome that, and I will and I can. And so I signed myself up. And I went, and at least 8 times I was sitting there going, I could just tell them I'm sick, I could leave, I could say I'm gay, they won't take my blood. But
You did not just say that. That was good.
sorry. But I kept reminding myself, I'm here to prove something to myself. Because, like my girlfriend Emma said, this is not who I am. I'm someone who has the capability to do whatever they want when they want, even if it isn't in the moment something they want to recognize as good for them. But I know, and I know from growing up with you, from growing up with everything in my life, that no matter what happens, it's serving my greater good, whether I can see it, whether I don't want to see it, or whether it's just there living through me. So every time this would come up where I'd go, I can leave right now, I kept saying no. Take a deep breath, and I actually kept repeating, this is perfect because you are God. This will work out because you are God. And I got myself through it. And I sat down, didn't have too much of a fit, and I got through the entire experience without even crying, which is very significant for me. And I finished and I went, good. Now I can conquer the big things. Now I can do everything because I'm willing to surrender to what is my greater good, and I'm willing to know that even when I'm surrendering, I'm not giving up to something outside of me that says, this is what you're going to do. I'm not giving away the capability to change my life. I'm taking it back from that place where I didn't think I had it. So I was able to do something small, and now I know I'm able to do something big. And that, to me, as a teenager, is what surrendering is.
Oh. Wow. I didn't know what he was going to say. I will tell you yesterday, so when was the blood test? Friday? Yeah. Yesterday, Kevin and I are trying to carry this big-ass piece of slate across the yard, right? And the two of us, you know, and it was really heavy. What was it, maybe 80 pounds, 90 pounds, 100 pounds? I don't know, it was really heavy. And we go to carry. I said, Will, can you help us carry this? He said, I gave blood. I'm told I'm supposed to really take it easy. I was like, you gave blood yesterday. Pick it up. So then we stepped aside and let him carry it himself. It was great. Okay, I'm going to close with one last quote. William, that was really great. Really great. This is what that minister whose son took over his church must have felt like. Who was that? No, not Joel Osteen. Oh, he took over his dad's church. You are the future Joel Osteen. He does some great work, though. He really is New Thought, except that it's saved through Jesus. So he only adds that at the end, but everything else is very much New Thought. So Khalil Gibran, I'm going to close with Khalil Gibran, and I can actually see him. Here's the quote. A traveler I am, a navigator, and every day I discover a new region in my soul. A traveler I am, a navigator, and every day I discover a new region in my soul. Your soul, my soul, this one soul, is infinite in scope. There is so much left undiscovered in you. If you think that you've done it all or you know what you know, you've just scratched the surface. Every single one of us is scratching the surface. There is so much more to know, so much more to be, so much more to understand, so much more to experience, so much more love to share with one another. So much more. We are travelers. And I am so grateful, so ever, ever, ever grateful to each and every one of you for traveling with me, for being here and being the souls that I get to travel every day with. And we have such amazing places the places we will go. Really, truly, truly. 62. I've got another, 38 years ahead of me to get to there. And she's just scratching the surface. I've got another 5. Oh, more than that. More than 5. Yeah. So, what turns you on? It's time for you to find out. Really find out. Not just what titillates you, what turns you on. What takes you from that position in mind where you are a little closed off to opening up, to surrendering to something bigger than you. Surrendering to something bigger than you that you are. That's the next step. Something bigger than me that I am. I am, and you get to put whatever you want after it. And pay attention to what you put after I am. Because what you put after I am, that is a directive to the universe to bring it on. So really listen to what you're saying. If you're saying, I am tired, find a bed, because you're about to pass out. If you're saying, I am rich, then get a bank account because it's coming in. If you're saying, I am ready to experience whatever wants to come my way, then really get ready, because it's a-coming. Each and every one of us has the opportunity to be that, to be on the journey of the soul. And I am so happy to be doing it here at the Global Truth Center. Thank you. Namaste.